This is Jim Giles, and you're listening to Radio Free Mississippi. And joining us in England is Mr. Simon Darby, who is the Deputy Chairman and National Press Officer of the British National Party. Mr. Darby, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, Jim.
I tell you, it is a real honor and pleasure to speak with you. When I finished college, I went to Europe and traveled around like a lot of college kids do, and I became a Europhile and especially enjoyed my time in London. I saw the plays My Fair Lady and Evita there, and I've just always loved Europe and England, and it's interesting. I know a lot of Europeans love America, but I really love Europe and England. And I know, are you on your blog, are you a naturalist and angler? Do you fish a lot?
I do fish a lot when I'm not doing politics. Unfortunately, Jim, the chances of getting out there with a rod nowadays are very limited. But I did nip up to Scotland on the River Tay a few weeks back, and me and my colleague, we caught a nice salmon and a sea trout, which was very nice indeed. But when I leave politics, which will be one day when I retire or get locked up or whatever, if I get beheaded perhaps, then when I leave, assuming I'm still around, still alive, then I will spend a considerable amount of my time catching fish.
You know, you and Mr. Nick Griffin, your chairman, both of you gentlemen look like rugged outdoorsmen. That is a picture of you on your blog?
Yes, I do enjoy the outdoors. I mean, I spend a lot of my time stuck in front of a computer, stuck in an office, and I like to get generally every day an hour's walk where I do a little bit of bird watching, looking at nature, looking at the weather. It's a great thing that the natural world, a lot of people are completely oblivious to it, and I don't understand it. And I do enjoy the outdoors, very much so.
I used to be a big fisherman myself, and I've spent many an hour with a rod and reel and pole in my hand, so we share that passion. I happened to interview a lady yesterday who was a film nature. She filmed nature scenes and whatnot, so that's kind of a coincidence. You know, the British National Party, I have not heard that much about it in the American press, and I think for obvious reasons, but I would appreciate you telling my listening audience who the British National Party is and what do y'all stand for.
Well, we're a nationalist party. We don't believe, for instance, that Britain should be governed by the European Union, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners are familiar with that concept. We believe we have the right to govern ourselves. We're a party that believes that the indigenous people of these islands, and the people that go way, way back for thousands and thousands of years, do deserve to be looked after, protected, have their history and culture preserved. For that, of course, we're deemed to be heretical and racist. I'm sure you've heard that word before in America. And we have various other policies as well, economic policies. We don't believe in globalism, reckless globalism, which has pretty much bankrupted the Western world and is probably about to wreak even more havoc just when everybody thinks we've got over it. We believe as well in a proper criminal code in this country where criminals are punished. We have a very politically correct system in the UK at the moment where the criminals are actually given priority over the victims, and we would want to reverse that. We're in a bit of a mess over here, as indeed a lot of Americans will understand. I think you've got a bit of the psychological virus of political correctness infecting your society is just as much as ours, and we're very much against that. And for that, we get some very hostile press, and it doesn't surprise me at all that a lot of American papers, American media outlets are rather embarrassed about our existence.
Well, thanks to the internet, I have come to know about y'all and I think a hearty congratulations is in order. And I think that's the reason the American press is not reporting on what the BNP is doing, because y'all seem to be growing and succeeding. And quite honestly, I would love to see something like that happen here in America. I mean, nobody can even go where y'all have gone and succeeded without being targeted and, like you say, beheaded. I mean, we don't have the threat of, well, the European Union in America really is the federal government, and which really, we've got an open borders policy, and we're being flooded with non-nationals or whatever. But this thing about the European Union, your chairman, I watched the video on your website, and I was really impressed with the history that he laid out at the Battle of Waterloo and Napoleon. I didn't realize that's where the leftist ideas came from, and the European Union finds its roots in Napoleon's efforts, that they've twisted it. That was a great video. But I would just tell you, congratulations. Y'all excite me. Y'all have done something that gives me hope. I've quite honestly, a lot of people have kind of given up on the system over here in America because our Congress is so controlled by lobbyists who don't have Native Americans' interest at heart. They seem to have foreign interest at heart, and it's really hard to understand. Let me ask you this, though, to give my listening audience a kind of an education. I don't quite understand y'all's parties over there. I understand you've got Labor and the Conservative Party, and I assume that Margaret Thatcher, that was the Conservative Party?
Yes, that's right.
And you know, I interviewed a Lord Monckton of Benchley on global warming recently, who served in Margaret Thatcher's cabinet. And I assume he's from the Conservative Party. But can you?
Yeah, Lord Monckton actually, he does talk quite a bit of sense about global warming. Actually, he's quite a good speaker, isn't he?
Yes. He is really highbrow. I mean, I felt lucky to talk with him. But what can you explain Labor and Conservative and BNP? Because as I understand it, as I read some on the internet, y'all seem to be taking away from Labor, and I don't quite understand that.
Yeah, well, it's different to the two-party system you've got in the States. Really, you've just got two parties, and that's it. Here we have the Labour Party, with the ruling party, the party in government. They're socialists, Islamo-Marxists, bordering on communists, and then you've got the Conservatives, who are not conservative, shall we say, almost a breach of the Trade Descriptions Act. And then you have the Liberal Democrats, who are the third party in this country, who really are extremely liberal, wishy-washy liberals. Then you have people like ourselves, who are very much different to the three so-called mainstream parties, so much so, and we fill them with dread and terror so much that they all unite, and all of a sudden their policies become the same, and they all sing from the same hymn sheet at the site of the BNP. But we've got them very, very worried about us, very, very worried. It's interesting you mentioned no comparable movement in the United States, and it's something that plays on my mind, and I know it plays on Nick's mind. Both of us have come over to the States and talked to people who feel exactly the same way as we do. I mean, there are a lot of people who have genetically are exactly the same as me. I mean, there's an awful lot of, British stock in America, especially in the South. And we do think the same. We do have the same values. Obviously, we're different, but we do have the same values. And I talked to people in the States. I was in New Orleans. And some of the conversations I'm having with guys there are exactly the same as the conversations that I'm having with people in London or Manchester or Liverpool. And it's very frustrating that can't be galvanised, that frustration and that sense of injustice can't be galvanised into a viable political vehicle, because you do have the brain power. There's no two ways about it. There's some very, very clever people in the nationalist movement in America, and you certainly have the money, more money than us, in fact. And it's a tragedy that nothing can be galvanised, nothing can be set up, and you haven't got, let's say, an American National Party. It's, for want of a better phrase. because I think you do very